Hello, friends.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Brittany. Together, we are two sisters who are here to help you learn some tips and tricks to help navigate this crazy journey called life. So, Tay, I sound like Forky in this one. Like, those Forky shorts with the like, what is love? What is cheese? So, today I'm going to ask you, what is mental load?
I forgot about Forky. Oh, Forky.
I just saw it there in my head. That was automatically, I was like, oh, Forky.
Well, it's funny because this is actually newer to me. Like, I hadn't heard this term until like the last month, and I was like, yeah, I feel really sane
Really?
with this term. Yeah, I don't know why.
Oh, I've heard this one.
Oh,
My
girl,
mental
then
load is a mess.
Well, then maybe you should describe it because I was like, I felt really hurt when I heard this. What is mental
mental
load
load,
to you?
and maybe it's because I'm an older mom. Like maybe that's why. Like, I mean, I have a
Maybe because I
13-year-old.
just yeah, and I'm discovering some of these nuances. So yeah,
Yeah,
keep
and I've heard it a lot, like in relationship to parent. I mean, it applies to anybody in their phase of life, but I have heard mental
going.
load in a lot of relation to like being a mom, because as a mother you're in charge of so many things. Like, you are the chauffeur, you are the house cleaner, you are the food maker, whatever, the chef, you are the like make sure the school crap gets done, you do all the doctor's appointments, you schedule all the appointments, you like worry about the kids, you take them to their dance recitals, you take them to soccer, you like feed them, you work full time, you have to look good, blah 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 blah, right? Like, I'm thinking
Yeah.
of like in that section in Barbie. Remember where they're like,
Yeah, no, that was I felt so seen after becoming a mother. And
oh,
I mean, I felt it before, but I like um there's this really special niche of people that really do fully experience this. And I think mothers is definitely
yes. Yeah,
I mean,
and
I
it
everybody
totally
has their
goes
own
for
mental
everybody's a
load.
mental load. Yeah,
Yeah, but being
and,
a
like,
mother
Steve
is just
Jobs, like, would wear the same thing every day because it decreased his mental load, because if he wore the
yeah,
same outfit every day, then that was one less decision he had to make, and so
yeah,
it decreased something from his mental load. And
yeah.
so, like,
I get that.
even like James, like he has like my fiance, like he has these different, like he's like, I have 10 shirts and this is what I wear. Like, I don't have to think about it. And I'm like, I get it. Like, logistically, I understand that doesn't take your mental load. Whereas my
Yeah,
closet is like a total bomb went off, and that adds to your mental load because you have to organize the closet. You have to wash the clothes. Where do your clothes go? Where do you put them? Like, that's
yeah.
something that we carry around in our head.
Yeah, I didn't
I'm
fully
stressed
get this,
thinking
and
about
after
this.
I know, right? I'm just like,
Oh, my
but
mental load is
after
ridiculous.
right, yeah, after becoming a mom, I remember so many times telling our mom, I'm like, I really appreciate you. Like,
Yeah,
you
because you don't
did
realize it.
so much for us, and I didn't fully realize it. Like, I mean, you do and you
Mhm.
don't, right? Like, you can understand the concept of it, but then now doing it, I'm just like, and I have a very supportive partner. I have a very involved partner,
Yeah.
and I still feel like the mental load is just extreme sometimes. Yeah, it's all the things all at once, and then you add a
Yeah, like,
holiday season on it, and it's just like,
oh,
oh my
and the
goodness,
mental load that
nothing.
comes with Christmas. Like, you have to, like, organize people's
Yeah,
lists. You have to make sure you have a gift for everybody. You have to manage the budget. You have to make sure your
yes,
house is clean so the wrapping paper's done. Did
yes.
your garbage get taken out? Did you feed the dogs so they don't come dig in the presents and try to eat the gifts? Like, I mean, there's all of
Mhm.
these things. Ugh, it's a lot on top of your already mental load.
Yeah, and you don't know it until you know it, and then I was like, dang, this is all.
Yeah, and I like this
So
definition that you have here. It's the unseen work that creates all the functions and flow of the job that needs to get done. And there's
every
a lot
role
of
that
that
we
to be
take on,
done.
every title that we take on has unseen work behind doing that
Yep.
job. And I think
I've gone through
that's the
so many therapy
thing.
sessions with this. This is like why
So
I'm like, ah.
yeah, like Matt's and I talked about this in our podcast for Thanksgiving time, like after Thanksgiving of just like life updates and stuff, and how worried I was about hosting for Thanksgiving because
Mhm.
there's and
And it's
like
a
trying to
mental
get
load.
him to understand that was like the mental load and capacity, and he finally understood it once I explained it, but it took a while because he doesn't have to do that load. I have to do that load,
Mhm.
like the laundry and making sure Banks is stuff out of the room and just all of these little
I
things
remember
that you don't.
talking about this too, like with Thanksgiving. And I
Yeah,
remember having this conversation with you of being like, you need to pass this off of your mental load to Madsen. Like,
yeah,
you need to say, Madsen, finding your like if this baby comes early, because you were really stressed about that, like that
Just
was
so
part of your
stressed.
mental load. Like if my baby comes while everybody's here, what do I do? And
Yeah.
I was like, that needs to not be your task. You need to literally like hand that off to Matson and be like,
Yeah.
this is not your task. I am unloading this mental load. Like
Well, when I finally
you deal with that.
explained it to him that way, he understood it, right? Like,
Exactly. But
this
it
is
took a
wearing
lot
down
to
on
get there.
me. It took me months, and it took a
You felt
lot
really
of, like,
wise
strain
during that
on me.
conversation.
You were really wise,
It doesn't happen
to, like,
often.
pass that
Yeah.
on him. Yeah, and that's where it's like, we don't realize just how much energy goes into, like, even, like, prepping for birth this time. I didn't realize how much of a mental load that was on me until I was talking to my therapist. She's like, "You're scared, aren't
Yeah.
you?" I'm like, "I'm terrified, and I don't realize how terrified I am until now." Like, I
Yeah.
am so scared of it again. And that was a mental load on me, like, and that's where, like, we don't fully realize it. I think this is a newer one to me, so I love that you are
I've had a
more.
lot of therapy sessions about this for years.
I am just learning about the mental load because I am a new mom, and I already
Yeah.
knew the mental load of being a therapist because that's
And I
kind of like
struggle
what
with
they
it.
train you on,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize it in, like, some of my personal life roles, and
Mhm.
that's where
And
I'm
every
learning
role
how do
takes
you
a toll,
balance
like you
it.
said earlier. Mhm.
Yeah, every single role, but so then when you add more roles on and more titles on, and being a mom is an extreme role. It's many
It
jobs at
is.
once. And then you're
Yeah.
still a partner, you're still all the things you were
Yeah.
before
You're still a
added
sister, you're
on,
still a daughter, you're still an
all of them.
employee, you're yeah. Mhm.
I'm not an employee, but yeah,
Well, you're a worker, whatever you
I'm an
wanna phrase
owner.
that, but, like
Just
yeah.
joking.
But I'm just saying,
I'm
like,
just
yeah.
joking.
Mhm.
No, but I still
I
have a
am
job.
an
I still have a
employee.
job. I
Yeah,
still have like, you
exactly.
still have all these other roles going on here. I was like, I didn't realize it until I realized it. So that was interesting to me. So I think the more that we, like, understand the mental load, it's interesting because trying to explain it to people of, like, how it wears on you, I think,
'Cause it is an invisible load. Like, it's not
yeah, you can't fully
yeah.
articulate it. So I think that's where you have to first identify what is zapping your energy, and
Mhm.
then why it's zapping your energy so you can articulate that to other people. Because I wasn't, like, Thanksgiving's probably a really good example for me on this one, where I wasn't able to fully articulate to Matson why it was so epic for me to have to, like, organize all these things and our house and everything else,
Yeah.
and why
Because
the
when you break it
nursery
down,
was
he's
such a
like,
load on me.
"Big deal." Like, the house is like, you could easily logic your way out of it at the same
Mhm.
time. Like, I should be able to go to the grocery store to buy this food. I should be able to,
Yeah.
like, make sure the nursery's set up. Like, but
Yeah, all the
it's
tasks we had to do, I was like, I can logistically do it, but then there was this whole other unseen side of, I'm scared of giving birth. I'm scared that there's an unknown of if it's going to happen when people are here, and then what do we do with them in my house? And I'm scared, like, my child is going to be dysregulated in this process, and then what if I have to
Mhm.
transition him and my dog with a new sister while this is happening? And then I don't know how bad birth is going to be, so then what if my body's totally destroyed, and I don't know, like, I don't know how bad the birth is going to be, so then I'm going to, like, have people in my house, and then I'm going to be totally messed up, and then my babies are going to be totally messed up, and, like, it was just all of these things that was, like, a lot
Yeah. It's a
at
lot.
once.
It's a lot to carry in
And
your
then you're
brain.
like, people are in from out of town. Is the baby going to get sick? Then how do I protect the baby? Then do I need to go somewhere else? But then I can't take it. Like, then I need my husband, and
Mhm.
and then you're like, is my husband going to be available? Is he going to be off with his family? And then all of a sudden the baby's going to come. Like, but then when
Yeah.
you finally hear all of these other thoughts coming along, you can understand, oh, there's more than just, you got to do the shopping and hosting people
Yes. And when you
and
actually
putting
open
a
the
nursery together.
floodgates, like, I had a conversation last night with James, and it was one of those where he was like, "I had no idea that you had all of these feelings going in your head today because we had had a great day," you know? And he's like, "I had no idea. I had no idea." And then once you open it, he's like, "That's a lot to carry. How are you doing?" You know? But it's like once you
I
really
love
break
that.
it
Thank you.
down yeah, and it was like, I'm
Good
not
job,
having a great
buddy.
I'm actually sad. And then I like had to name my 3 feelings. Where like I'm feeling sad, conflicted, and excited. Like,
I'm so proud of you for naming your feelings.
but
The
it was
people
one
are
of
real.
those where it's like because your mental load, like it's not visible, right? Like externally you come across as like, I'm having a great day. Like I had a good time today. Like, thanks for the fun day, blah, 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 whatever it is, right? Like, but the mental load when you unpack it, it's like when you like have all these clowns that come out of a circus car. Like,
Yeah.
at first, it looks
Yeah.
like it's all fun, and all the polka dots and the
And everything
confetti
is
coming out of
good.
its
Yeah.
exhaust pipe. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then you open it, and it's like 50 fat clowns come out. Like, it's
Literally, that's a really good example, actually. And it's
yeah, like,
fascinating because
where'd
it's
they come
like
from? Mhm.
it can be even in the most mundane things because now my day-to-day is pretty basic and it's pretty routine, but then it's always
Totally.
like, well, Banks was crying and I had to take care of Banks crying, but I still had to pump and then I still had to
Mhm.
feed baby Ray and I still have to like make sure baby Koa is loved and I still have to like clean up the area that Banks ruined. And like there's still a different pull in different ways, even without anything epic happening. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's
And you
where
get this
we
from me all the
forget.
time. And
Yeah.
it always comes out of my mouth as, "I have to go clean my house."
Oh my
Like,
goodness.
I never
Always.
give
I
you, and
I
it drives you and Matt's
literally
nuts.
nuts.
Like,
We went on a date yesterday and I literally made a bet with Madison before elections where I was like, I'm gonna ask Brittany to do this, and I bet you $5 she says she's gonna have to clean her house. I
and
won
within 2
$5.
seconds, I was like, "I gotta go. I gotta go clean my house." But I think it's my way of, like, compartmentalizing all
Processing.
of the clown car instead of, like, "I have all these feelings, and I'm feeling this and this and this, and I have all these 100 tasks to do," and I'm like, "I have to go clean my house." Like,
And then guess who got you to actually name some of what you were feeling?
I mean, it's your
Taylor.
therapist, so, yeah.
I mean, it's not that hard, yeah.
And then as you
I do.
sat there, you're like, "Wow, that's a lot." Yeah, I know.
No, I just was trying to get you to actually recognize you had a lot because I could already tell, but that's what you do. But I think that's what all of us do is we all go into either like
We try to
avoidance
mask the
or
mental load.
mask
Yeah.
it. We're performers, so we're gonna go try and do something else. And I think that's where you have to look at like what do you compensate with? What are you going to do instead of dealing with the mental load that you're dealing with and delegating it and approaching it? How do you hide it? And I think mine is like going into a plan. The when I started to realize what this was and how it's translating in my life, I noticed I was like just really trying to overplan it and over like talk to my partner about it and get over like support from it. And that's where I think how I compensate is I try and control it the
Mm,
best that I can control it when I can't control it.
yeah.
And
And
I
I
think we're
just
all going to
totally
kind of
shut
morph.
down. Like,
Yeah,
mine's a
you
little
just
opposite
avoid
when we were
it.
talking about this yesterday. I'm like, I
Yeah.
just avoid it and just I'm fine, I'm doing fine. Mhm. Like,
I get sassier too. I get more emotional with Matson.
yeah.
So like the more mental load that I have, the more I snap at him or the more that I like get annoyed with him than if I and I think that's where you need to start seeing like how do you compensate for it.
Yeah.
I just get
Other
sassy.
times too, like, I think it can be, like, even, like, mindless scrolling. Like,
Yep.
your brain goes into, like, this,
Our
oh god, I'm blanking on
ADHD
what it's.
set just shut down. We just shut down
Yep,
before
it's,
this.
ADHD fatigue or whatever, like,
Yeah, we
and
stem.
so all of a sudden it's like stimming behaviors come out more. I've noticed that a
Mhm.
lot in both of us.
Burrito mode.
The what?
I call it burrito mode where I just flop and I'm like in my
Yeah.
blanket just scrolling because I'm
Yeah.
so suffocated with what I have to do that it's easier than doing what I have to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or I'll like hyperfixate on some like I'll bust out a bunch of small tasks to try to like feel like I'm like compensating. So I get those dopamine hits really fast, but then I'm still avoiding the bigger tasks that I have to do.
Yep.
Or
Or the
catastrophizing.
bigger feelings that you have. Yep.
Yep. I feel like a lot of times, like when my mental is really big, I will sit there and just catastrophize over like what was one recently? Oh, it was stupid. It was so I help with like the children's program at church. And so we
Mhm.
had new teachers coming in for the children's Sunday school program, and I had to like let them know what class they were teaching. Okay. Not a big deal. They'd ask for papers, and I'm like, I don't do papers. And so that stressed me out so bad that I had to like either A, tell them that I wasn't doing papers because I already told them I didn't do papers, or B, go print out all these papers and stuff these folders. The task itself would have taken me like 10 minutes, right?
Mhm.
But in my head, it was this massive thing because it was on top of the rest of the mental load. So then I just
Mhm.
hyperfixate on this one thing and catastrophize.
Mhm.
Like, and then I'm like, I'm going to run the whole children's program, blah, 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 blah. Like, which is not real, right?
Yeah.
Like, totally not real. But like when you're meant, like, so start to realize like where you're at. Like, what are you seeing to know, like, I can also feel my cortisol levels like skyrocket when my mental load
Yeah.
goes too high. And it feels like my head's like one of the cartoons, like when those thermometers go really, really high and then it just explodes.
Mhm.
Like that's one way that I've noticed it in myself over the years. I mean,
I
other
notice
things.
I feel really isolated and like everything's on
Yep.
me. And the
Yep.
more I feel like and I, again, have a really, really supportive partner, but then I'll get, like, more angry with him or more frustrated or just feel like he's not carrying his side of the load, and I start using verbiage where it's like, I do all these things, or like I start comparing, or I start like almost one-upping in a
Mm.
way when my mental load gets heavier. And I've
And that's
noticed that a
like,
lot recently. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like that's why I'm doing it. But it's not okay. But like now at least I understand why I'm doing it.
yeah, I think we'd use this as a resource at one point, but Leadership and Self-Deception by the Arbinger Institute. And
Mm-hmm.
there's this section in there, I think we might have talked about this on the resources, where like when your mental load is going up, it's really easy to like vilify those around you to make yourself
Yeah.
kind of look like a martyr. And
Yeah.
so like in the book they use this instance of like their baby was crying. They had a new baby, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so the guy was like, I have a big meeting tomorrow. I can justify not getting out of bed, even though I told my wife I was going to take the baby shift tonight because I have a big meeting tomorrow. And so
Yep.
then as he lays there, then he's like, all of a sudden he's sinking through his mental load and forgetting his partner's mental load at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of it, he's like, she's a neglectful mother. How dare she not go get this child out? Like, I'm the only one who ever does anything for this family. I'm the one that has to provide for us. I'm the one that goes to these meetings, blah, 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 blah. And I think it's so easier for it, like, it's so much easier for our brains to jump to those points.
Yeah.
We are just over capacity, right? Like
Yeah.
we stop seeing people around us as actual people with their needs and with compassion and love because we're overwhelmed.
Yep.
And everything becomes about
Well,
us because it's a survival instinct.
yeah, I mean, perfect example, last week. So my baby was 2 weeks old. My husband had a sore throat, and she's 2 weeks old. So
And
he
she's
was
like
like,
five
I need to
pounds.
stay.
Yeah.
She's 5 pounds, 6 ounces when she was born. So she's tiny, tiny, has no immune system. I was like, if this kid gets taken out, she gets taken out like
Yeah.
by a sickness. So my husband was like, I'm not gonna touch her. I'm just gonna like try and like leave her. So it was me and two babies. And I remember that in that day she was like really fussy. I think I had drank too much caffeine and I'm breastfeeding. So it's like, darn it, like, like I think I just
Yeah.
passed on too much stuff for her, caffeine. And it was a rough day. And I remember my thoughts were starting to trail like what that guy had. And I had seen so many things lately where it's like, don't compare. And I had to intentionally be like, this is not his choice. This is not what he's doing to me. I am taking a hit right now, but he's also taking out his own hits. Like I had to
Mhm.
really like acknowledge like I am frustrated that it's just me right now. He feels terrible though. That is just me right now. And he's said it multiple times and he's encouraging me verbally, like, you got this, it's
Yeah.
okay. And like,
Like
um,
wanting to help, but knowing that for the
wanting to
better
so
of your
bad. Yeah. And
child.
it was,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was a choice we both made together. Right. But like, and I remember having to specifically go and be like, I'm not going to vilify him. I'm not going to like, I'm taking the hits or anything like that. It's going to just be like, I can acknowledge I'm frustrated. I am tired. It was a rough day, but that's okay, and it doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything about him. It doesn't mean anything about me. It just means like, that's how I feel. And
Just
like
acknowledging
trying to
it is what
get,
it is. Yeah.
yeah, just accepting like, yeah, I am tired. I am done right now. And that's okay. But then like, when I really needed him later that night, he was there. And I think that's where, um, knowing when to delegate or when you are really tapping out too is really important.
Mhm.
Because later that
And that
night
is
I was like
hard.
sobbing with her and I was like, I know you're trying not to touch her, but I'm done. Like I need you. And he was immediately there. And like that was, like knowing how to tap out, knowing how to call on your people still is really important with your mental load.
Mhm.
It's
And
hard.
that's like that is a strategy for lightening your load. And for some people, like for my personality type, that is really hard. Like you were here one day when I totally lost it.
Yeah.
Remember, like when was
Yeah.
that?
It
Before
was like a month ago.
Thanksgiving?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was
I
before
don't know.
Thanksgiving. Yeah. Cause you're
And
cleaning
my
house for your
family was
family.
there, like offering to help, offering to help. They could see that my mental
Mhm.
load was too much. I was starting to
Mhm.
crack, and I was like, "I'm fine, I'm fine," and I was getting sassy, and like
You got really
somehow
sensitive.
picking up dog poop in the backyard was like the end of my world. Like it was like
It's really
I
bad.
don't it was really bad, but, like, I struggle with delegating
Yeah.
tasks or asking for help, like
Yes.
and it's okay to do that, like, I am working on that. I'm like, a total hypocrite, but hopefully by sharing this, it helps me be better at it, but, like, delegate when you feel overwhelmed, and it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Like, the kids may not do things the way that it needs to get done in your mind, but that's okay. Like
Well,
yeah.
I think that's the thing that I've learned too is, and my mom told me this when she's like, let your husband have the opportunities to help and support you and be a part of the household. And just because it may not be done the way that you would do it, it's still a valuable thing, right? So
Yeah.
like, I have intentionally tried to do that from the beginning with Matson because it's like he is there to help me. He is there to support me whether or
Yep.
not it's ran the same way, whatever. Like
No,
that
it's the
really
same
doesn't
thing.
need to
Like,
matter.
yep.
Yeah,
Having
it
James help
does.
with dishes, like, and I was like, "You don't have to do my dishes, it's my house." "No, I'm doing your dishes." Like, and I
Yeah,
had to be like, "Yeah, you're right. Like, you're my
yeah.
partner, you can do my dishes." Like,
Well,
it's
even
yeah.
like Matson will sometimes be like, "You need more sleep, sleep in. I got the babies." And the morning is not ran the exact same way that we run the morning every single time. And I have to be like, you know what? My husband has gifted me sleeping. Like, who
Yeah.
cares if the morning isn't the same? Who cares if like different things happen or dishes or whatever? Like, that's how he runs the morning. That's great. And the fact that he's running the morning is huge. Like,
Mhm. Which is
like, and
so
that's
good.
where,
Yeah.
or yeah, like, or he did the laundry or, whatever it is. Like, it may not be the way that I do it, but like at the same time, I didn't do it. I have to do it. So like,
Yeah.
thank you.
And we
That
have
task
to
wasn't mine.
offload that. Like, I think did I call you yesterday about this? I was really excited. I've been listening to this book, like The Courage to
Yeah.
Be Disliked,
Yeah.
and they were talking about tasks. And so, like, how sometimes we take on more tasks too than we need to take on. Like, it's actually not
Mhm.
our task as an individual, but it's somebody
Mhm.
else's task. And we need to let that go. Like, get rid of that off of our own mental plate. And like they were using the example of like kids and their homework. Like, that's not my task as a mother to ensure that my children do their homework. Like, that is
Mhm.
the children's obligation. That is the children's task. And so, like, letting others do it and take their own responsibility, which sometimes I think that we, like, especially as parents, like, we take it on because we feel like it has to be done because it's a societal expectation, or we think that we'll look bad if our child doesn't do this, or like, there was a thing recently, like, I was talking to James and his son didn't want to go to a cello concert, and he felt that that made him, it reflected poorly on him, right? And but it's like, and so we have to be like, why are we doing these things? Why are we pushing these
Mhm.
actions when they're actually not our tasks? Like,
Well, I
let
even
it off your mental plate.
something as simple as like teaching your babies how to use their toys. Like this last month, I've been like, I get to be home more, so I've intentionally like had playtime with Banks, and he's using his toys. And I remember seeing so many things throughout grad school and recently on like children playing. A lot of parents
Mhm.
feel like that's not how you play with it. This is how you
Oh
play with
yeah,
it.
don't do that.
And I've intentionally been like, "Oh, you're doing it this way." And like he figured out his shapes on his own because I would just be like, "Oh, that doesn't," like he had the shape in his hand and he'd be shoving a star into a square. And I'd be like, "Is that fitting? It doesn't look like it's fitting." And he would just be like, trying to push it, and it's like, "Is there another one that looks like it? Look and see," like, or I just let him keep shoving until he couldn't get
That
it, and then he would
unstructured
figure it
play
out.
is so good for kids.
Totally good, but it's also
Yeah.
good that they have somebody there to encourage them to keep trying. You'll figure it out,
Mhm.
like, and I think that's where even that, like, the mental load of trying to teach your kid the right way or trying to
Yep.
teach your kids like how to clean or how to do things, like they will pick it up. Like today, I was baking muffins this morning, and Banks really wanted to help me. So I was like, you know what? He can dump stuff in here. It's not gonna like he's 15, no, 16
That
months
was
now. He
so
just turned
cute.
16 months. And he was helping me dump the oats in, and half the oats went on the counter. I was like, the recipe will still be fine. And like dumping, he was like
He was,
mixing
like,
the bowl, but
eating
he was
more than he
just
was
shoving.
eating.
Yeah. He was just shoving, like the spoon in there, not really mixing. And I was like, but this is how he learns. It doesn't have to be done specifically. It just this is a part of teaching and letting him have his autonomy. So I think a lot of times our mental load is us thinking something has to be done in a specific way, in a specific route, and it doesn't. We can actually get really creative. Like it took me, you had mentioned like Walmart Plus order for
Mhm.
groceries, and I remember being like, but I love shopping for groceries. And then when I had a baby, I was like, girl, I need Walmart Plus. Best
Yeah.
thing ever happened to me
We're
in my
not
life.
sponsored, but it's amazing.
We should be sponsored because I will tell everybody get Walmart
I
Plus.
do. I do. I
Save
tell people it was,
mental
like,
load.
life-changing.
But it totally altered our mental load. And even at like Thanksgiving time, this thing
Yes.
saved our booties of like I was going through and I was helping with the grocery shopping because we were helping host and stuff, and I was going through and literally I just like gotta like put everything in the cart and it gotta get picked up for me. Like none of us had to go to the grocery store
Yes.
for that. I only had to go to one grocery store. I didn't have to pick
And
up
it
all
was
these
Costco.
tiny little things. Yeah.
Yep.
And I had to pick up all these tiny little things from Walmart, like Jello or whatever. Let's just like,
Yeah.
what aisle is this on? Like, this took me 3
And it
hours. No, it
takes
took
so much
me
off your mental load. Like,
so much. It
meal
took me
planning too.
literally 20
Oh,
minutes to load the cart and I was done. I was done.
yeah. Like meal
Meal
planning, my
planning?
favorite life hack is I use like also not sponsored here, but like I use the
We
Clean
should
Simple
be.
Eats app. I feel like I may have mentioned this in one thing before, maybe
Yeah.
not, but like it does all these like healthy, clean eating recipes. It generates a shopping list. So I literally just pair it with my Walmart Plus app and I'm like, all right, here's what we're eating this week. We got chicken and spinach and blah, 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 blah. And then I just go to Walmart, add, done.
And you
Like,
know what's even better? So my husband has access to Walmart too, and I'll be like, "Oh, go add it in the cart." So I don't just have to be the only one to do it. He can do it as well, and he just goes
yes.
and adds whatever he needs. So then it's like I don't
Yeah.
even have to go and be
Or
like,
like
"What
with
do you need more
teenagers,
of?" Or like,
put the app on their
they can
phone
have
and they can
yeah,
add stuff to
and
the cart. Like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
and that's the great thing is like it just eliminates where
Yep. And then
like
they
it's
can't
all
complain.
streamlined.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like they can't complain then that they don't have the foods that they like in the house because, well, you have Walmart Plus on your phone. Why didn't you add it to the grocery order?
yeah. Exactly. And
It's
that's
yeah.
where like it eliminates a mental load for me too. We have our menu up on our board, which everybody that comes in our house is like, "Oh my goodness, you're so organized." And I'm like, "No, this is literally how we actually make sure we have meals." But
Otherwise,
but
we'll be
then we
getting
just look at
Chipotle
what
again.
what'd you
Otherwise,
say?
we get Chipotle again. Like,
Literally, like, no, that's
yeah.
like what it is. Um, but we both just look at the board and like we can trade out whoever's cooking that night based off who has the energy for it because we both know what we have in the pantry and we both know what's accessible.
Yep.
So like that's the beauty of having some things where it takes the load off, right? Where Matt's not asking me
Mhm.
what's for dinner tonight and be like, "Oh, look at the board," kind of thing, or like what's happening this week. Oh, it's on our calendar. Like we have a calendar posted in our house on the board, right? So we're more organized and streamlined based off of that
Yep.
because it's just all right
And
there.
I bought a skylight too, and it's really helped to
I've heard
communicate to
those are
my
great.
kids. Oh, it's
Yeah.
been really like it works really well with one of my children, the ADHD child, Anson. It works really well for him. He really gets that
Mhm.
dopamine hit every time he checks something off, and like he has to check his things off.
Yeah.
Adeline, it
Just working on it.
has increased her mental load a little bit because then she can visually see everything she has to accomplish, and it kind of stresses her
Mhm.
out. But at the same
Yeah.
time, like it's helped my mental load as a mom so much because it's like it's got the meal plan, it's got the calendar, it's got their to-do list for the
Yeah.
day. It's
Whatever
amazing.
questions they have. Yeah. And that's where
I'm
it's
like, go
like,
look on Skylight. They're like, what do we have to do for
yeah.
homework today? Go look on the Skylight. Like,
So like even for my
yeah.
work schedule, it's helped a ton too where Matson has access to the hours that I work and he can see
Yeah.
what's like booked or not booked. Like he can't see my client load, but he can see it
She's
has
busy
like
here.
the Simple Practice has like an app where it can coordinate with your family so they can see like
Oh,
where
nice.
you're blocked out. So it doesn't show clients, it just shows like these
The
hours are
time.
taken. Yeah. So it'll list the like client in these hours and it just says a client in these hours, which is
Perfect.
awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. That was like the best thing they could have done for us. But like, so that's
But these are
where
all things that reduce your mental load. It's yeah.
so
Work
much. And that's
smarter. Like,
yes. And like there's apps now too for which I was gonna load because we're having it. I remember like when would do we feed Raid last and when does she need her diaper changed? When how many like has
oh
she gone to the
yeah.
bathroom? There's apps for that. And I found those yesterday and I was like, that'll eliminate a whole load for me if we just have this app coordinating for both of us so we don't have to remember, we just have to look.
It syncs. Yeah. Yeah.
But that takes away a mental load, right?
It does. So
And then we
now,
like
like,
but then we have meals prepped. Like this is another one that you can use is we have a freezer out in our garage and we're prepping meals and we have whiteboards on the board that we write. These are meals that we have prepped for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. These are items that we have in the fridge on this other list. And this is
oh
our
yeah,
shopping list at the bottom. And
yeah,
it's amazing. So both of us use that to like cross things off or write on there. So we know and we don't have to go take inventory.
which is great.
Mental load out.
Yeah, all these little things help. But so now let's talk about like what are some ways that our listeners can do this on their own. Like let's give our challenge here.
I mean, I think so. We gave you a lot of the tips that we do on our own.
Yeah,
So, I
but
think
like,
the biggest thing that I would do is like identify what you are feeling. Like, what is
mhm,
zapping your energy the most, right? And then you
mhm,
need to be able to identify. So, like, identify the things that you're zapped on, identify how you can balance those out, and where can you delegate? Where can you let go of control over? And some weeks for me, that's like, okay, Mattson, you got the Costco run this week, not me. I love Costco runs, so that's really hard for me to delegate. But towards the end of my pregnancy, I'd be like, Mattson, that's yours. I can't take it. Or I don't even, you know, like whatever it is, right? Like this is just too much for me to have to manage or take care of, and start delegating where you can to other people in your life.
Yeah.
That
And it's
those are
okay
probably
to
2
do
really
that.
big things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the best way, if you really don't know what your mental load is organize like all the responsibilities that you have from all the roles in your life. So if you
It's
can
so
identify,
overwhelming when you do it.
it's
Mhm.
crushing, but it's good
Yeah.
because then you
It is a
start
good
realizing
practice
just
because it's
how
like,
much,
holy shnikes. Like, yeah. Mhm.
because I never fully realized just how much like things were like pulled on me until I started being like, as an admin, I have all these tasks, meaning like I have taxes and company things and insurance and just all of these tasks, right? But
Mhm.
then as a clinician, I have all of these tasks. But then as a mommy, I have all of these tasks. And then as a wife, I have all of these tasks. And then as a house
Yeah.
owner,
It's a little
as
soul
a
crushing
house
when you do it.
owner, I have all of these tasks. And then as a dog
Yeah.
mom, I have all these tasks. Super soul crushing, guys.
Super soul
Like,
crushing.
whoa. Because you see
Yeah.
everything that you do all the time, and you're just
Yeah, and you're like,
like,
"How the heck do I fit this all in?" Like, yeah.
but then that's where the beauty comes into, okay, which role is zapping me the most, or which one do I feel like is causing the most mental load? And then
Mhm.
where can I start delegating those things? You know, and like, what am I worrying about? What am I actually adding to my mental load and worrying about with my own mental health or with not taking care of myself? Because at the same time, you have a responsibility to yourself to take care of yourself. And the
Yeah.
more that you can balance that out, the more benefits you will find and the less mental load. And that's where I think at the end of the day, it's looking at prioritizing your self care so that you can carry this mental load better. And that's what it really
Yeah.
comes down to.
So true. And just remembering you don't have to carry it all alone. You've got help.
Yeah, some people may not have as many resources for
Yeah.
that
And
too.
that I have a hard time with that too. But
Yeah. So like
yeah.
you may not have as many
Like, as
resources
a
to help
single
carry
mom, you
it.
have to get creative. But
Mhm.
sometimes like the apps, like even like
Mhm.
I have relied more on like apps, or I've relied more on calendars or Skylight,
Mhm.
or like there's other things to
Tools.
like I
Yes.
don't have a Madsen to do my Costco runs for me, but
Yeah.
like I've got Walmart Plus, you know? And like so
Yeah.
realizing that
You
you
also
can
have
yeah,
friends that will run to Costco and you can be like, "Oh, can you grab this for me too?" Like,
exactly.
or
"Hey, you're going
me,
today,
or
I'll
like,
Venmo you." Yeah.
exactly. And that's where like get creative and like start
Mhm.
thinking ahead of like, oh, this person's going and I know they're going. Can you grab this for me? Can you do this for me? And that's where a lot of pride is coming in, but it's also like, is it
And it's
really
hard.
worth your pride, or is it
Yeah.
worth just being done with it, you know? And like it's hard. So I would say we can create a downloadable sheet for you to be able to organize your responsibilities, and then you can start identifying what's like causing your mental load and then how to start delegating it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Good exercise too.
Very,
I have done that. Yeah. I did it at the
yeah.
beginning of the school year, and then I did an inventory like around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, when I became a mommy, Matson really um honestly, he's awesome at this. He helped me figure it out, and he helped me be like, this is where you're giving too much, and this is where I can take stuff, and this is where it just needs to
Yeah.
drop off. Like it doesn't
And
matter.
sometimes, like, I was talking to dad this morning, he's like, "You need to get more off your plate. You need to get more off your plate, Brittany." And I'm like, "Where's left?" Like, and I
Mhm.
get that. Like, as we're saying this, like, I was like, "I have nowhere else to give. Like, I can't what am I supposed to
Mhm.
keep cutting?" You know? And it's hard because I mean, I'm sure I'll figure out something in the next couple weeks or I don't know. But like, I understand that instinct to be like, "I've already cut it all," and to feel like you're stuck. Um, so yeah, like I am
It's not
acknowledging
so
that as
much about
well.
cutting, it's more about it,
Managing it better or
how
however, yeah,
much energy are you giving it, right? Because you only
yeah,
have so much energy, and that's where I've really had to learn, like, my client time, that's stuck in client time. I don't have any more capacity to give them past their hour than their hour. And
yeah,
that's hard to admit, but that's the reality, right? Because I have
yeah,
babies that need me. I have a husband that needs me. Like, I have family and friends. Like, your hour's your hour, and that's it. And that's where can you start
yeah,
compartmentalizing certain things or certain tasks in this is your zone, and you don't really
mhm,
touch the other zones. Like, my housework doesn't touch my work hours because that's my zone to do my work hours and my work stuff. But then when I'm home, then that's when it's for me to do laundry and for me to figure out the meal plan and for me to figure out. And that's where, um, if you can't cut, then start looking at how you're managing your zones
yeah, yeah.
and your energy.
hopefully this helps, guys. Let me didn't stress you out with your mental load. But like,
I think it's a good thing to talk about. You're gonna get stressed hearing about it either way because I get stressed even talking about it, like,
right?
and
As I'm like,
identifying
oh,
all it
I
because
got so
I'm
many
like,
things to do.
yeah, our whole list starts coming up, but then that's where when that happens, I check myself of like, but then I am causing even more mental load with getting stressed over being overwhelmed. So
Yeah.
what is that going to do me? It's going to do me nothing. It'll all get done eventually. It'll all be accomplished. So like, why do I need to add an extra point to the mental load capacity to stress over it? I don't.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. It's an interesting little yeah, the more that I've like learned about this one, the more I'm like, huh, this is a very real one, very, very hard one. So
Mm-hmm. But we're doing it.
we're doing it. Welcome to the club, guys. Mental loads are interesting.
Well, thank you, friends, for listening today. Hopefully, this was super helpful, like we said. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and YouTube for more tips and tricks to help you every day. And thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.